An elderly man with a terminal illness makes a bucket list of wishes to fulfill before he dies, but his last wish was shocking. In a small town, there lived an elderly man named John. His hair was as white as snow, but his eyes shone with the light of someone who had lived a long life full of love and adventures. John was known to everyone in the neighborhood, not just for his wisdom accumulated over the years, but also for his generous heart and welcoming smile. Every day, John would stroll through the park, greeting children, chatting with the young, and exchanging stories with other elderly folks. He was a man of simple habits and was content with little to be happy, valuing the small joys of life. However, his life took an unexpected turn. One sunny morning, after feeling weak for weeks, John decided to visit the doctor. He was sitting in the waiting room, his heart beating faster than usual. He had been feeling tired and lacking energy for the past few weeks, but he didn't expect anything serious to be wrong. The nurse called his name, and he entered the consultation room with a slight smile, as he always did. Dr. Albert, a serious man with a compassionate look, welcomed him and asked him to sit down. With a deep sigh, the doctor began to speak, explaining the test results. John listened attentively, his smile gradually fading as the words came out of the doctor's mouth, telling him he had a terminal illness and would die soon. A heavy silence fell. John felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath his feet. A sense of helplessness took over for a moment. He just stared at the doctor, trying to process what he had just heard. Time seemed to stand still, and everything around him became blurred, as if he was trapped in a nightmare from which he couldn't wake up. Dr. Albert continued to speak, his voice full of empathy, but John only heard fragments. Months to live, palliative care, quality of life. Each word was a blow to his heart. Memories of his life flashed before his eyes, happy moments with his late wife, the laughter of his children, the hugs from his granddaughter. Everything seemed so distant now. John left the office in a state of shock. He walked slowly through the streets, his face pale and eyes teary. The sun was shining, people were smiling, but inside him there was a storm. The pain of the news mixed with a deep sense of loss and fear of the unknown. He stopped at a park bench, the place where he always found peace. Tears finally began to stream down his wrinkled face. It was a moment of absolute vulnerability. John felt the weight of the diagnosis like an unyielding shadow over his life. But deep in his soul, a small flame of resistance began to shine. As he looked up at the sky, he made a promise to himself. He would not let the disease define him. With each tear that fell, his determination grew. John decided that the time he had left would be lived with intensity and purpose. He didn't know how he would do it, but he knew he was not alone. And with this thought, he stood up, ready to face the coming days with courage and an open heart. After a few difficult days, where the news of the diagnosis still weighed on his shoulders, John woke up one morning with new determination. He got up slowly, feeling each movement as a battle against time. In the kitchen, while preparing his coffee, an idea began to take shape in his mind. He took an old notebook that was kept in the drawer of the living room and sat at the table. With a pen in hand, he began to think about the things he had always wanted to do, but for some reason, whether it was fear or lack of opportunity, he had never done. Each blank page seemed like a new beginning, a chance to give meaning to the days he had left. He decided to create a bucket list. With a smile on his face, he prepared for a journey of fulfillment and reflection, knowing that each wish fulfilled would be a victory against the time he had left. John began to write, Wish number 1, reconnect with an old friend. He remembered Joachim, his childhood companion with whom he had lost contact over the years. He wanted to meet him again and relive the memories of a friendship that time had not erased. Wish number 2, visit a special place. There was a flower field in the town where he grew up, a place where he had spent unforgettable moments with his late wife. He wanted to feel the breeze of that place once more. Wish number 3, fulfill a childhood dream. As a child, he always wanted to fly in a hot air balloon. He had never had the opportunity, but the desire to see the world from above had never disappeared. Wish number 4, create something meaningful. He wanted to do something that he could leave as a legacy for his family, something that would remind everyone of his love and dedication. Wish number 5. Help the community. He felt a deep desire to give back to the community that had always welcomed him with so much affection. He wanted to do an act of kindness that would make a difference. Wish number 6. Enjoy a simple day. Spend a day with his granddaughter Sophie, just enjoying each other's company, without hurry, without worries. Wish number 7. Share his story. He wanted to record his memories, his experiences, so that his family could know him even more deeply after his departure. After thinking a lot, he wrote the last wish, which he left separate because it seemed impossible to achieve, and he would try to do it only after accomplishing the others. With each wish written down, John felt a mix of melancholy and hope. It was as if, by putting his dreams on paper, he was challenging time, asserting his will to live fully until the last moment. Finished with the list, he looked at the words before him. There was sadness, yes, but also a strong sense of purpose. The illness could take many things, but it would not take away his ability to dream and pursue those dreams. With the notebook in hand, John went to find Sophie, his granddaughter. Seeing her, a smile lit up his tired face. He knew that with her help, each of those wishes could come true, and so, with a heart full of courage and a list of dreams, he began to walk a path of hope and resilience, ready to turn his last days into a celebration of life. Sophie was a vibrant young woman, with brown hair that fell in soft waves and bright eyes that reflected the same determination and kindness as her grandfather. From a young age, she had always been very close to him, admiring his wisdom and the gentle way he treated everyone around him. When Sophie learned of her grandfather's diagnosis, her heart tightened with worry and sadness. She couldn't imagine life without him, without his stories and advice that always brightened her days. Determined not to let the illness steal the last moments they could share, she promised herself she would do everything to help him fulfill his wishes. One afternoon, while visiting him, Sophie found John sitting on the porch with the notebook of wishes in hand. He looked at her with a serene smile and showed her the list. She read each line carefully, feeling the depth of her grandfather's dreams and aspirations. When she finished, she looked at him with tear-filled eyes but full of determination. "Grandpa, we're going to fulfill every one of these wishes. I promise," Sophie said, holding his hand firmly, though she didn't yet know about his last wish. John felt a wave of gratitude and love. He knew he couldn't have a better ally for this journey. Sophie had always been brave and determined, and seeing this same strength now directed at helping him filled his heart with hope. Sophie began to plan each detail, eager to see the smile on her grandfather's face as he fulfilled his wishes. She knew the journey wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to face any challenge alongside John. They started with the first wish, finding the old friend Joachim. Sophie used the internet and social media to try to locate him, a task that proved more difficult than expected. Even so, she persisted, motivated by the love and respect she felt for her grandfather. Between searches, Sophie spent hours talking with John, listening to stories from his childhood, adventures, and moments that shaped his life. Each conversation deepened their bond, strengthening Sophie's determination to make those wishes come true. The relationship between grandfather and granddaughter was a pure reflection of unconditional love. Sophie didn't see the list of wishes just as a series of tasks to be completed, but as an opportunity to create unforgettable memories and show her grandfather that he was loved and cherished. And so, with the notebook of wishes in hand and hearts full of courage, Sophie and John began a journey that was not just about fulfilling dreams, but about celebrating life, love, and the power to turn difficult moments into precious memories. John and Sophie were determined to find John's old childhood friend. Their friendship was one of those stories that withstand the test of time, even though life circumstances had separated them. John fondly remembered the days when he and Joachim ran through the fields, sharing secrets and dreams. Days were spent making calls, sending messages, and researching. In a stroke of luck, Sophie found a lead, an address in a neighboring town where Joachim supposedly lived. With a racing heart, she shared the news with John. "Grandpa, I think I found Joachim," Sophie announced, holding the notebook of wishes like a trophy. John felt a mix of anxiety and joy. What awaited him in this reunion? Had Joachim changed much? Would he be willing to relive those old times? With these thoughts, he agreed to travel with Sophie to the neighboring town. The trip was full of memories and laughter, as John told stories about the mischief he and Joachim used to get into. When they arrived at the address, both felt palpable nervousness. Sophie knocked on the door, and time seemed to stand still. The door slowly opened, revealing a man with grey hair and a welcoming smile. John recognized Joachim immediately, despite the wrinkles and years that had passed. Joachim's eyes filled with surprise and emotion upon seeing his old friend. "John? Is it really you?" Joachim asked, his voice trembling with disbelief. "It's me, Joachim. After all these years, here we are," John replied with a smile that lit up his face. The two friends embraced, a hug that seemed to contain decades of longing and memories. Sophie watched the scene with tears in her eyes, feeling the depth of the moment. The reunion was marked by laughter, tears, and endless stories about the old days. They spent the afternoon together, reminiscing about adventures, people they knew, and dreams they shared. Each word, each laugh, seemed to heal a part of John's soul, bringing him a peace he hadn't felt in a long time. Joachim shared stories about his life, his achievements and losses, and listened attentively to John's stories. As the sun began to set, John felt that an important part of his life had been restored. The first wish on the list was not only fulfilled, but exceeded all his expectations. The reunion with Joachim brought new energy and a renewed sense of purpose to his journey. As they said their goodbyes, John held Joachim's hand and said, "Thank you, my friend. This moment means more to me than you can imagine." Joachim smiled, replying, "True friendship never dies, John. It's been a gift to see you again." With a light heart and a warm soul, John and Sophie returned home, ready to face the next wishes on the list. They knew that, whatever the challenge, together they could turn dreams into reality. John felt a new energy after reuniting with Joachim. Now he was ready to fulfill the second wish on his list, visiting a place that held deep meaning in his life. This place was a flower field on the outskirts of the town where he grew up, which he and his late wife Anna used to frequent. The field was a refuge of peace and happiness for the couple. There they shared picnics, dreams, and promises of eternal love. For John, this field was not just a piece of land, it was a sanctuary of precious memories. Sophie, always by her grandfather's side, organized the trip with care. They rented a car, and on a day with blue skies and radiant sunshine, set off towards the flower field. During the journey, John told Sophie stories about Anna, how she was kind and had a smile that lit up any room. He spoke of the happy days they spent together and how that field witnessed their love blossoming. Upon arrival, John was silent for a moment, contemplating the scene he hadn't seen in so many years. The flowers were in full bloom, creating a sea of colors dancing in the wind. The aroma of the flowers filled the air, bringing vivid memories of Anna and the love they shared. Sophie spread a picnic blanket under a large tree, and the two sat down. John closed his eyes, breathing deeply, feeling Anna's presence beside him. He opened the wish notebook and began to speak, as if Anna were listening. "Anna, I'm back. We're here again, our special place. I brought our Sophie with me. You would be so proud of her. She has your courage and your heart." Sophie, with tears in her eyes, held her grandfather's hand, feeling the depth of the moment. She knew how much this place meant to him and how important it was to share these memories. They spent the afternoon there, laughing, crying, and reminiscing. John showed Sophie the spots where he and Anna used to sit, where she picked flowers, and where he proposed to her. Each story was a piece of John's life puzzle, and Sophie felt honored to be part of this narrative. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, John looked to the horizon and whispered, "Thank you, Anna, for everything." Sophie, sitting next to him, felt a profound peace, as if witnessing something sacred. John was at peace, surrounded by memories of eternal love. He knew that this day would be etched in his heart forever. Returning home, John felt renewed. The visit to the flower field not only brought forth precious memories, but also reinforced his desire to live his remaining days to the fullest. He was ready to face the next wish on the list, with Sophie by his side, and the certainty that Anna would always be with him, every step of this journey. After the visit to the flower field, John felt even more determined to continue fulfilling his wishes. The next on the list was a childhood dream he had never had the chance to pursue: flying in a hot air balloon. Since he was a boy, he had always been fascinated by the idea of floating in the sky, free as a bird, seeing the world from a completely new perspective. John remembered spending hours watching colorful balloons in the sky during summer festivals, imagining what it would be like to feel the wind on his face and see the houses and fields grow small below. But for one reason or another, this dream had always been out of reach. Sophie, upon learning of her grandfather's wish, was excited and determined to make it a reality. She researched places that offered balloon rides and found a balloon festival that would take place in a nearby town. Without wasting time, she organized everything and made it a surprise for John. On the designated day, John and Sophie arrived at the balloon festival. The place was filled with balloons of all colors and sizes, ready to take off. John's eyes sparkled like those of a child, seeing the giant, colorful balloons inflate and prepare to ascend to the skies. One of the pilots, noticing John's enthusiasm, approached and invited him to board the balloon. John, with a racing heart, accepted the invitation. Sophie helped him into the basket, and soon they were ready to take off. The balloon began to rise gently, drifting away from the ground and climbing higher and higher. John looked down, watching the world shrink beneath his feet. The houses, roads, and people seemed like miniatures, and he felt a sense of freedom he had never experienced before. The wind caressed his face, and he breathed in the pure air of the heights. It was a dream come true. "Sophie, this is indescribable," John said, his voice choked with emotion. "I've waited my whole life for this." "I'm so happy for you, Grandpa," Sophie replied, holding his hand. "You deserve every moment of this experience." As they floated in the sky, John felt a mix of joy and serenity. The horizon seemed infinite, and he felt as if he could touch the clouds. Each second was a gift, a reminder that despite adversities, there was still beauty and magic to be discovered. The flight lasted about an hour, but for John, it felt like an eternal moment engraved in his heart. When they finally landed, he stepped out of the basket with a radiant smile, the same smile of a boy who had just fulfilled his greatest wish. Sophie, seeing her grandfather's happiness, felt a deep gratitude for being part of this moment. She knew that each fulfilled wish was not just an achievement, but a celebration of John's life and all that he meant to her. With a light heart and renewed soul, John was ready to continue the journey. Fulfilling that childhood dream was more than just an item crossed off the list. It was a reminder that it's never too late to live your dreams. And with Sophie by his side, he knew he could face any challenge and turn each day into a new adventure. After the thrilling experience of flying in a balloon, John was ready to fulfill the next wish on his list: creating a family legacy. He had always valued the importance of memories and wanted to leave something meaningful for future generations of his family, something that would tell his story and keep his presence alive even after he was gone. John had always been skilled with his hands. When he was young, he learned carpentry from his father, and over the years he made various pieces of furniture and toys for his children and grandchildren. Now he wanted to create something special, something that could be passed down from generation to generation. He decided to make a memory box, an object that could hold the most precious moments of his life and his family. With Sophie's help, he began to plan the project. They spent days preparing, choosing the best woods, the details of the design, and the items that would be kept inside the box. John and Sophie spent hours in the workshop, cutting, sanding, and assembling the box. Each hammer strike, each fit, was done with love and dedication. While they worked, John shared stories of his life, his youth, how he met Anna, and the adventures they had together. Sophie listened attentively, feeling the importance of each word and each memory. The box began to take shape, and along with it, the idea of what items would be kept inside. John chose carefully a photo of his wedding with Anna, a letter he wrote to her when they were young, the toys he made for his children and grandchildren, and a medal he received for his community work. Each item had a story, a piece of his life and soul. Placing the objects in the box, John felt a mix of nostalgia and gratitude. It was as if he was leaving a piece of himself for his descendants, something they could touch and feel, reminding them of the love and lessons he tried to impart. Finally, the box was ready. It was a work of art, with delicate carvings and a finish that gleamed in the sunlight. John looked at it with pride, knowing he had created something lasting and meaningful. Sophie, this box is more than wood and memories. It's a piece of our history, something I hope will be passed from hand to hand, telling who we were and where we came from, John said, his voice choked with emotion. Sophie, moved, hugged her grandfather tightly. She knew that moment was special, not just because of the object itself, but because of the time they spent together, the stories shared, and the love he put into every detail. Grandpa, I promise we will take care of this box with all the love in the world. It will be a treasure in our family, Sophie replied with tears in her eyes. Placing the box in a special spot in the house, John felt a deep inner peace. He had left a piece of his heart for his family, something that would endure beyond time. And so, with another wish fulfilled, he felt more complete, ready to face the next chapters of his journey, always with Sophie by his side and the memories that sustained him. John had always believed in the power of community. Throughout his life, he received so much love and support from neighbors and friends that he always wanted to give back in some way. With the diagnosis he received, the desire to leave a positive mark on his town became even more urgent. His fifth wish was to do something meaningful and impactful for the community he loved so much. He and Sophie began to plan how they could help effectively. After several conversations and reflections, they decided to create a community garden. The idea was simple but powerful, a space where everyone could plant, harvest, and share fresh food, strengthening the bond between residents and promoting healthy eating. John and Sophie spoke with the town council and got permission to use a vacant lot near the town centre. The news spread quickly, and soon many volunteers came forward to help. The lot, which was once a forgotten and lifeless space, began to transform before everyone's eyes. With shovel and hoe in hand, John led the project, teaching planting techniques and ensuring everything was done with dedication and care. Sophie, always by his side, helped with the organization and motivated the volunteers, creating an environment of cooperation and enthusiasm. The days working in the garden were filled with laughter, conversations, and new friendships. People of all ages came together for a common purpose, and the garden began to bloom, bringing with it a renewed sense of community. John saw in the faces of the people the same joy he felt when planting and tending the soil, and this filled his heart with hope. The community garden not only provided fresh food, but also became a meeting point where stories were shared and bonds strengthened. John watched with pride as the plants grew, knowing that each fruit and vegetable represented collective effort and shared love. On a special day, they organized a party in the garden to celebrate the first harvest. Tables were set up, decorated with flowers and fruits picked right there. Children ran and played, while adults prepared meals with the garden's produce, creating a true community feast. John, sitting on a wooden bench he had built himself, watched the scene with tears in his eyes. It was one of the most gratifying moments of his life. Seeing his community united, strong, and happy was the fulfillment of a dream he never knew he had. "Grandpa, look around. You made this happen. You turned an empty lot into a place full of life and joy," Sophie said, holding his hand affectionately. "I didn't do it alone, Sophie. Everyone here was part of this transformation. It shows that when we come together, we can create something truly special," John replied with a satisfied smile. The party continued until nightfall, with music, dancing, and much joy. The community garden was not just a project, but a symbol of unity, hope, and gratitude. John knew that even after he was gone, that space would continue to flourish and bring happiness to many. With a heart full of love and a sense of mission accomplished, John was ready to face the next wishes on his list. He knew that, whatever the challenge, the spirit of community he had cultivated would always accompany him, reminding him that together we can make a difference. After fulfilling the first wishes, John felt the need for a more intimate and tranquil moment. He wished for a day dedicated solely to enjoying the simple joys of life alongside Sophie, his beloved granddaughter. Without grand plans, without hurry, just appreciating each other's company. They started the day with a special breakfast in John's kitchen. Sophie made her grandfather's favorite pancakes while he told old stories, making her laugh with his funny memories. The kitchen was filled with the sweet aroma of pancakes and the sound of shared laughter. After breakfast, they decided to take a walk in the local park. It was a place they had frequented since Sophie was a child. They walked slowly, admiring the nature around them, the trees swaying gently in the wind, and the birds singing cheerfully. John pointed out a wooden bench where they used to sit and read books together. "Do you remember when you taught me to read on this bench, Grandpa?" Sophie asked, with a nostalgic smile. "How could I forget?" John replied, smiling back. "It was one of the most special moments for me, seeing you discover the world through books." They sat on the bench and stayed silent for a while, appreciating the tranquility of the park. Each minute seemed like a gift, a pause from the fast pace of life, allowing them to absorb the beauty around them and the depth of their connection. Later, they went to the lake where Sophie always loved feeding the ducks. They bought a bag of breadcrumbs and enjoyed throwing pieces to the hungry ducks. Sophie's laughter filled the air, and John felt a pure joy seeing her so happy with such a simple activity. For lunch, they had a picnic on the park lawn. Sophie had prepared sandwiches and fruit, and they sat on a checkered blanket, eating and talking about dreams, memories, and the future. John took the opportunity to tell Sophie how much she meant to him, how she brought light and joy into his life, especially in the hardest moments. "You are my greatest joy, Sophie. Being with you, sharing these moments, this is what makes my life special," said John, his eyes shining with emotion. Sophie, with tears in her eyes, replied, "And you are my inspiration, Grandpa. I've learned so much from you. Every moment with you is a gift." After the picnic, they returned to John's house and spent the afternoon playing board games, reminiscing about the games they used to play when Sophie was little. Laughter echoed through the house, and each move in the game brought back cherished memories. The day ended with a home movie session. They chose one of John's favorite films and snuggled on the sofa, sharing popcorn and commenting on the movie. When the credits rolled, John felt a deep peace. It was a perfect day, full of simplicity and love. As they said goodnight, Sophie hugged her grandfather tightly, feeling the depth of their bond. "Thank you for today, Grandpa. It was wonderful," she said. "Thank you, Sophie. This day will always be in my heart," John replied, with a serene smile. John went to bed with a light heart, knowing he had created another unforgettable memory with his granddaughter. The simplicity of that day, filled with small joys, reinforced the value of shared moments and the love that united them. And so, he was ready to continue fulfilling the wishes on his list, always with Sophie by his side, turning each day into a celebration of life. After a day full of simplicity and joy, John felt it was time to fulfill a deep and personal wish, to record his life story. He wanted to leave a legacy for his family, something that would tell his journey, his struggles and his achievements, so that future generations could truly know him and learn from his experiences. John discussed his idea with Sophie, and she eagerly offered to help. They decided to record his stories on video, a lively and dynamic way to capture not only his words, but also his expressions, his laughter and his tears. Sophie arranged everything, setting up the camera and creating a cozy environment in the living room. With the camera rolling and Sophie by his side, John began to tell his story. He spoke about his humble childhood, growing up in a small village where he learned the values of honesty and hard work. He recalled his school days, the mischief with friends, and the first love that made him believe in the magic of life. Each chapter of his life was narrated with vivid details. John talked about meeting Anna, his wife. He described the day he first saw her, their romantic dates, and how on a sunny afternoon he proposed to her in the flower field that meant so much to them. His words were filled with love and longing, and Sophie felt as if she was getting to know her grandmother in a completely new way. John did not spare details about the difficulties they faced together. Life wasn't always easy, but each obstacle overcome strengthened the bond between him and Anna. He spoke about moments of loss and pain, but also about the joys and victories that illuminated their days. His narrative was a testament to resilience and hope. When he reached the chapter about his children, his eyes shone with pride. He told stories about the birth of each of them, their unique personalities, the laughter and tears they shared. Each memory was a treasure, and John wanted his children and grandchildren to know how much they were loved and valued. Sophie asked questions, encouraging him to delve deeper into certain moments. She wanted to capture not only the facts, but also the emotions and lessons that came with each story. The recording stretched over several days, each session bringing forth new memories and reflections. John also shared his passions and hobbies. He talked about carpentry, the pleasure of creating something with his own hands, and how each piece of furniture or toy had a story behind it. He told about the books he read, the music he loved, and the small pleasures that made his life special. When speaking about the last years, John reflected on the importance of living in the present and valuing each moment. He spoke about the joy of spending time with Sophie, the lessons he learned throughout life, and the peace he found in accepting his condition. His words were a powerful reminder that, even in the face of adversity, it's possible to find beauty and meaning. When the final session was recorded, John felt a profound sense of accomplishment. He had left a piece of his soul for his family, something they could watch and revisit whenever they wanted to feel his presence. Sophie, moved, hugged her grandfather tightly. She knew those recordings were an invaluable treasure, a legacy that would keep John's memory alive for many generations. "Grandpa, your stories are a gift to all of us. I promise we will always cherish them with love," Sophie said with tears in her eyes. "Thank you, my dear. Knowing that my story will live on in you brings me immense peace," John replied, with a serene smile. With the wish fulfilled, John felt he had completed an important mission. He had shared not just his life, but also the values and lessons that shaped who he was. John and Sophie were immersed in fulfilling the wishes, each bringing a new layer of meaning and emotion to their lives. However, not everything was easy. Like any great journey, they encountered challenges and setbacks that tested their determination and willpower. The first obstacle arose when they tried to locate Joachim, John's old friend. After days of searching and unanswered phone calls, hope began to wane. John felt the weight of frustration, but Sophie, with her indomitable spirit, refused to give up. It was only with great persistence that they finally made contact, a reminder that patience and determination can overcome significant barriers. Another significant challenge appeared when they planned the balloon flight. On the appointed day, the weather changed drastically. Strong winds and torrential rain made it impossible to take off. John, who had awaited that moment with so much enthusiasm, felt disheartened. However, Sophie, always optimistic, reminded him that conditions could improve. And indeed, after a few days of waiting, the weather cleared, allowing the wish to be fulfilled. Building the community garden also had its difficult moments. At the beginning, they faced a lack of resources and proper tools. John and Sophie organized fundraising events and asked for donations from the community, but the initial response was tepid. There were moments when John wondered if he would see the project come to fruition. However, their passion and persistence eventually inspired more people to get involved, turning the challenge into a collective victory. Recording John's life story brought out his deepest emotions. Reliving certain moments was painful, especially when talking about the losses and sorrows that marked his journey. There were days when John felt overwhelmed by the memories, needing breaks to process his feelings. Sophie, understanding and patient, was by his side, offering support and comfort. These pauses, though frustrating, ultimately strengthened their bond and made the narrative even more authentic and impactful. One of the most challenging moments occurred during the attempt to fulfill the wish to create something meaningful, to leave as a legacy. John wanted to build a memory box, but his health began to decline, affecting his physical ability to work in the carpentry shop. Each hammer strike and each cut in the wood required an effort he no longer had. Seeing her grandfather struggle, Sophie called in some friends and family to help with the construction, ensuring the project was completed without compromising John's health. Throughout the process, John's health continued to fluctuate. There were days when he was full of energy and determination, and others when the illness left him weak and discouraged. Each setback was a cruel reminder of life's fragility, but it also reinforced the importance of each moment lived intensely. Sophie adjusted the plans as needed, ensuring her grandfather could rest when necessary without losing sight of the goals they still had ahead. These challenges and setbacks not only tested the resilience of John and Sophie, but also brought them even closer together. Every obstacle overcome was a shared victory, strengthening the love and partnership between them. The journey was far from easy, but the way they faced difficulties together made each achievement even more meaningful. And so, amidst tears and laughter, moments of doubt and great victories, John and Sophie pressed on. The challenges did not defeat them. Instead, they illuminated the beauty and depth of the human experience, showing that true strength lies in facing adversity with courage and unconditional love. The journey of fulfilling John's wishes was not just a series of memorable events, but also a profound emotional growth experience for both him and Sophie. With each wish fulfilled, they discovered and transformed themselves, revealing layers of their personalities and feelings that had been dormant. For John, the terminal illness brought a new and raw perspective on life. Each day became a gift, each moment an opportunity to make peace with the past and build a meaningful present. Initially, he dealt with a mix of sadness and resignation, but seeing Sophie's determination and love, something inside him began to change. As they fulfilled the wishes, John came to value the small things even more. A sunset, a laugh, a hug. He learned to appreciate beauty in simplicity and find joy in everyday gestures. By facing his fears and vulnerabilities, especially while sharing his life story, John found a new strength. He realized that his legacy was not just in grand achievements, but also in the moments of intimacy and connection he created with his family. Sophie, on the other hand, also underwent significant transformation. Watching her grandfather face the illness with such courage and dignity inspired her deeply. She began to see the world with more empathy and compassion, learning to value time and the importance of human relationships. Each wish fulfilled was not just a victory for John, but also a lesson for Sophie about resilience and the beauty of life. The process of helping her grandfather brought out an unexpected maturity in Sophie. She became more patient, understanding, and determined. She learned to deal with frustrations and challenges, always finding ways to support and motivate John. Her worldview expanded, and she came to understand the value of living with purpose and love. A pivotal moment of emotional growth for both occurred during the construction of the memory box. While working together in the workshop, sharing stories and laughs, John realized how much Sophie had grown. She was no longer the little girl he had taught to read. She was a strong and compassionate woman, ready to face any challenge. This brought him immense peace and pride, knowing he had contributed to shaping such a special person. For Sophie, seeing John's dedication and care in creating the box was a revelation. She understood the depth of love and legacy he wanted to leave, not just through words, but through concrete actions. This understanding further strengthened their bond, creating a connection that transcended time and space. Another significant moment was during the recording of John's life story. By reliving painful and joyous memories, both confronted their deepest emotions. John wept as he spoke about Anna and the losses he faced, and Sophie, seeing her grandfather's vulnerability, felt an even deeper love and a desire to protect and honor his story. These moments of emotional growth were not just about facing mortality, but also about celebrating life. Each challenge, each wish fulfilled, was an opportunity to know each other better, strengthen their love, and find meaning in their shared journey. John and Sophie learned that true growth comes from the heart, from the capacity to love deeply and live each day with gratitude and joy. With each step taken together, John and Sophie became more than grandfather and granddaughter. They became soul companions, united by an experience that transformed their lives forever. And so, as they faced the next wishes, they were prepared to confront not only the adversities, but also the wonders that life still had to offer. John and Sophie's journey had been full of emotional moments and memorable achievements. However, as they neared the end of the wish list, John revealed a final wish that seemed impossible to fulfill. This wish created an atmosphere of suspense and doubt, testing both their faith and determination. John, sitting in the rocking chair on the porch, looked out at the horizon with a thoughtful gleam in his eyes. Sophie, beside him, held the wish notebook, anxiously waiting to hear the next step of their journey. "Grandpa, what's the next wish?" Sophie asked with an encouraging smile. John took a deep breath and in a soft voice replied, "I've always dreamed of seeing our family reunited again, Sophie. It may seem simple, but it's not. Since your parents separated, our family has drifted apart. I have this deep wish to see everyone together, in harmony, like in the old days." The silence that followed his words was heavy. Sophie knew the difficulties involved in this wish. There were hurts and resentments that had eroded family bonds, and gathering everyone in one place seemed a monumental, almost impossible task. "Grandpa, do you really believe we can achieve this?" Sophie asked with a hint of hesitation. John looked into her eyes, holding her hand firmly. "I don't know, my dear, but I believe it's worth trying. I don't want to leave without trying to heal these wounds and bring our family together again." With renewed determination, Sophie began to plan. She knew the key to fulfilling this wish would be communication and the effort to reconcile old differences. She made phone calls, wrote heartfelt letters, and even traveled to meet each family member, sharing John's wish to see everyone together again. Each encounter was a challenge. Some family members were reluctant, stuck in their hurts and resentments. There were doors that closed and heated arguments, but Sophie didn't give up. She carried with her the image of her grandfather, his voice full of hope, and his deep desire to reunite the family. John, for his part, also faced his own doubts and fears. Each day that passed without progress seemed a cruel reminder of the possibility of failure. But he trusted Sophie and her ability to touch the hearts of their family members. Time passed, and the tension grew. With John's birthday approaching, Sophie organized a big gathering at their house, inviting all the family members. The suspense was palpable. On the day of the event, the house was full of preparations, but John's heart beat fast with the uncertainty of how many would show up. As the afternoon progressed, the first people began to arrive. First, it was the closest ones who had fewer conflicts to resolve. Each new face that crossed the door filled John's heart with joy, but he knew the real challenges were yet to come. Finally, as the sun began to set, a moment of silence filled the room. The front door slowly opened, revealing the faces John had longed to see together. His children, despite their differences, had decided to honor their father's wish. Each one entered with a mix of hesitation and hope. The initial conversations were tense, but John's and Sophie's presence helped break the ice. The magic of the moment began to transform the atmosphere. Stories were shared, timid laughs began to emerge, and gradually, emotional barriers started to fall. John, sitting in his chair, watched with tears in his eyes. He saw his children hugging, grandchildren playing together, and the family reuniting, even if just for that moment. It was a dream come true, a victory against all odds. "Sophie, we did it," John whispered, his voice trembling. "Yes, Grandpa, you did it," Sophie replied, hugging him tenderly. The family reunion did not erase all the problems of the past, but it planted the seed of reconciliation. John saw his impossible wish come true, not because it was easy, but because it was driven by love and the determination to bring his family together. And so, amidst laughter and tears, moments of doubt and great victories, John and Sophie experienced the power of hope and perseverance. They learned that even the most impossible wishes can come true when you have faith and fight for them with all your heart. The wish to reunite the family had been an emotional triumph, but to Sophie's surprise, there was still one last wish from John, an even more impossible one, lingering in the air, bringing a mix of hope and uncertainty. John, always a dreamer, expressed his final wish with a soft voice and a sparkle in his eyes. He wanted to see the small chapel where he and Anna were married, restored and used again for a special celebration. The chapel, located on the outskirts of town, had been abandoned for years. It was a place filled with memories, the beginning of his journey with Anna, where they promised eternal love. However, the structure was in ruins, and the restoration seemed like a monumental task, especially with limited time and resources. Sophie, as determined as ever, decided they would do everything possible to make this wish come true. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she also knew that the love and memory of Anna gave John extraordinary strength. Together, they began to mobilize the community, seeking help to restore the chapel. News of the initiative spread quickly, touching the hearts of many who knew the love story of John and Anna. Volunteers started to appear, bringing materials, tools, and most importantly, enthusiasm and hope. Each day of work was a step forward, a collective effort to turn a dream into reality. John, although physically frail, was present every day, guiding the efforts with his wisdom and passion. Sophie documented every step, capturing the magic of the moment and the dedication of everyone involved. The chapel, once forgotten, began to come back to life. There were moments of doubt and fatigue, but the determination of everyone never wavered. Each brick laid, each repair made, was a tribute to the eternal love of John and Anna. The community worked tirelessly, and the chapel slowly began to transform into a symbol of love, hope, and unity. Finally, after weeks of hard work, the chapel was ready. It was a miracle, a vision that brought tears to John's eyes. The last wish was about to be fulfilled. To celebrate, Sophie and the volunteers organized a special ceremony, inviting everyone who had helped with the restoration. On the day of the celebration, the chapel was decorated with flowers and candles, reflecting the love that inspired its restoration. John, wearing his best suit, entered the chapel beside Sophie. The room was filled with people, all emotional and honored to be part of the moment. John, his voice trembling with emotion, addressed the congregation. "Today I see before me not just a restored building, but the living proof that love and community can achieve the impossible. This chapel is a symbol of the eternal love I shared with my dear Anna and the strength I found in all of you. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for making this dream a reality." The ceremony was a celebration of life, love, and resilience. There were songs, heartfelt speeches, and moments of reflection. For John, seeing the chapel full of life and love was the realization of a dream he thought unattainable. When the ceremony ended, Sophie and John stayed a little longer in the chapel. They sat on a bench absorbing the serenity of the moment. John looked at Sophie, his expression serene and full of gratitude. "Sophie, you did more than fulfill my wishes. You gave me hope, strength, and love. I am eternally grateful for everything you did for me," he said, his voice breaking. Sophie, with tears in her eyes, replied, "Grandpa, you taught me the true meaning of love and determination. It was an honor to share this journey with you." In that moment, sitting in the restored chapel, surrounded by memories and love, John felt a profound peace. He knew he had left a lasting legacy, something his family and the community would remember forever. The last wish had been fulfilled, not just as a monumental achievement, but as a testament to the power of love and unity. And so John and Sophie's journey came to a touching end, leaving behind a trail of memories and valuable lessons. The chapel, now a symbol of eternal love, would continue to inspire generations, reminding everyone that, with faith and determination, even the most impossible wishes can come true. John spent his days quietly, often in the company of Sophie. Together they reminisced about the adventures they had lived, laughing and crying as they revisited each precious memory. The bond between grandfather and granddaughter had become unbreakable, a constant source of strength and comfort for both of them. One afternoon, as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, John asked Sophie to take him to the porch. Sitting in his rocking chair, he gazed at the horizon with a serene look. He felt at peace knowing he had lived each moment to the fullest. "Sophie, I want you to know that these last months have been the most special of my life," said John with a gentle smile. "You gave me the opportunity to fulfill my dreams and say goodbye to life in a way I never imagined possible. Grandpa, it was an honor to be by your side. You taught me so much about life, love, and resilience," Sophie replied with tears in her eyes, holding his hand affectionately. Time seemed to stand still as the two sat in silence, appreciating the beauty of the moment. The gentle breeze and distant birdsong created an atmosphere of tranquility. John felt complete, surrounded by the love of his granddaughter, and the memories of a life well lived. That night, John went to bed earlier than usual. Sophie stayed by his side, holding his hand as he closed his eyes, ready to rest. John's breathing was calm and rhythmic, reflecting the peace he felt in his heart. "Good night, my dear," John whispered with a serene smile. "Good night, Grandpa," Sophie replied softly. John fell asleep peacefully, enveloped in love and gratitude. As he slept, his thoughts wandered through the happy memories he had created, feeling the presence of Anna and the loved ones who had preceded him. There was a sense of completeness and acceptance, knowing he had left a lasting legacy. The next morning, Sophie entered her grandfather's room and found John at peace, his expression serene as if he were merely sleeping. She knew he had passed, but she did not feel sadness. Instead, she felt profound gratitude for having shared those precious moments with him. The news of John's passing quickly spread, and the community that had come together to fulfill his wishes gathered once more to celebrate his life. The restored chapel, a symbol of love and hope, was the chosen place for the farewell. During the ceremony, friends and family shared stories and memories, celebrating the life of a man who had touched so many hearts. Sophie, her voice firm and filled with emotion, read a letter she had written to her grandfather, expressing her love and gratitude for all he had taught her. "Grandpa, your life was an inspiration. You showed us the power of love, determination, and hope. Thank you for every moment, for every lesson. You will live in our hearts forever." The farewell was a celebration of John's life and legacy. There were tears, but also laughter and smiles, a tribute to the joy and love he spread wherever he went. The chapel, illuminated by candles and memories, was a testament to the full life John had lived. John departed in peace, surrounded by the love of his family and the certainty that he had left the world a better place. His journey had come to an end, but his spirit and lessons would continue to live in every heart he touched. And so, with love and gratitude, the community and family said goodbye to John, knowing his light would shine forever.